Welcome to another episode of Stories from the Blind. Today we're gonna talk about vlog number 7, Dad. Why don't you kind of speak on that? The one that got away, we'll say.
The one that got away. I tell you, that was man, I could have cried. I could have cried, but it happens. I tell you, that buck come in on me pretty quick. He came in from behind me, off to my left. I mean, I was looking around. I was keeping my eyes peeled, and by the time he got up to me, it was a little too late, because you can see in the video how he comes up and he stops. He comes to a dead stop. And at that point, I just had enough time to get the video running, and I thought for sure, and I'll be honest with you, I thought for sure he was gonna, when he took off running across the dirt road, I thought he was gonna jump the fence and it was game over and I wasn't even gonna get a shot at him. But what winded up happening is he ran straight across to the fence and then he stopped. About 4 years ago, I was standing down on the ground during rifle season, and I had a buck do about the same thing, but I was standing facing the direction which would have been facing my tree stand of the direction. It would have been the opposite direction of the footage that you've seen, and I would have been on the ground standing beside a tree. And I had a buck run right, he come up from that bottom just like this one did, and he ran right up to that fence. But the funny thing is this buck, he just kind of meandered around like he was looking for something. And then he turned around and he trotted down and he stood there. He stared at me. Now, there was no way I could get my gun up to shoot at this buck, but he stood there, stared at me, and then he took off. And I tried to get my gun up, but you know how they are. They see everything. They don't miss anything, and I would have never got a shot. So I didn't get the opportunity to shoot that one because he winded up spying me out before I even had the opportunity to get him. But back to the one that I missed. I thought he was going to run and jump the fence, so I thought it was game over for me. And then he came down along the fence line, and I kind of had an idea that he was going to come down and he was going to stop and try to jump where yours came across. And he could have walked down a little bit farther. He could have probably walked down about another 40 yards and there would have been an opening in the fence. But at that time, I had already made my decision. If he got within my kill zone, I was going to light him up and I was going to make him leak. But as he come down that fence line, he had very little to no indicators that he was on guard or he wasn't. He was very laxed when he came in from my perspective. But two things I want to remind you of. These GoPros, okay, the light is so illuminated that it looked like it was daylight when that buck come in on me. But if you look in the backdrop of the lights around the highway there where we're hunting, you can see the lights are on in the background.
Well, one thing I want to point out quick is I saw that same deer maybe 5 minutes before you did, and I think one thing I said was it was very dark. I mean, it was probably 10 minutes before quitting time.
Yeah,
it was very dark. And one thing that I know we talked about is it was dark. I mean, it was like literally taking a shot in the dark.
I feel I had good opportunity there. As you could see in the video, you see where my arrow hits the fence and you can see the spark ricochet. I had a good beeline on him. I didn't rush the shot. The problem was, and I'm not making excuses or anything, some of the problem was it was darker, and I think that he heard that arrow come off the rail, and when it come off the string, he heard it. And if you slow the video down and watch it in slow motion, you can see where that buck, he dropped. And when he dropped, that's when it went over his back. Because if you kind of line up the deer and watch where the fence post is, because You can see the fence post right in his vitals, and you can see where it went right over his back. And if you know anything about deer, their ears and their eyes are what they live by. And I think this deer heard it come off the string where it twanged, and he jumped and he turned sideways like he was going to jump out of the way, because I could see it in the video.
And I think that's one thing that kind of haunts us is we know there is no guessing anymore. We used to guess. Now there is no guess, because we can slow it down frame by frame by frame. And there was a few days we watched that video a few days over, and we couldn't slow it down fast enough because it was. And then we finally did, and you were just. I remember you shook your head and you were like, this close.
He was a nice shooter buck, and like I said, I ain't gonna make excuses. And I made a clear miss. It just goes to show that I'm human and I'm not a professional. We're just out here having fun. And the key here is this is on public land. These deer they can be killed. These big buck can be killed. The question is, are you going to put the homework in and do the time and get these deer? Because they don't just walk out of nowhere. You got to know what they're doing and where they're at. And on this particular situation here, like I said, it was clearly my fault. I think if I would have maybe had to do it again, and like Charles said, the unfortunate thing is everything is filmed now that we do. And that's twofold. One, you get to see what you do wrong. Number two, you get to see what you did right and can capitalize on it. And it's like, now you got it on film, which is cool. In our day and age with technology, you can do that stuff. And like Charles said, years ago, I would have said, what happened there? Or I shot over it, or I did this, or I did that. But with technology, we can see the footage. And we can see where he dropped to probably about 5 inches that he dropped down as he was moving to, it would have been he was moving to his right to get out of the way. And I honestly believe if you watch the footage, you can see where when I pulled back on my bow, you can see it shake a little bit. And then I stopped because he was coming down the tree line, and then I pulled it the rest of the way back. I know in my heart that he never saw me. I know he didn't smell me. The wind was perfect that day, and if you listen in the video, you can hear the twang from the string, and I'm telling you, when it come off the string, he heard it, and he jumped the wire, and we didn't get no meat in the freezer. But we do got the story, and we do got the footage, and like I've spoken before, it's not all about the kill. Sometimes it's just about being out there in nature and doing things, being able to spend time with my son and enjoying, the atmosphere of the camaraderie that Charles and I have and the experiences we get to live and be able to pass some of our knowledge on to you guys. Not that we're...
It's also about finding yourself out there too. It's because you're out there alone a lot of the times. I mean, we do hunt together every now and then, but it's about finding yourself and being out there and really finding and digging deep for who you are. And yeah, we say, we want the meat in the freezer, we want the big horns on the wall. We do want the big horns on the wall, but at the end of the day, if you found yourself and you're smiling at the end of it, and you found the camaraderie, and because we hunt with a lot of guys, and there's some guys that they don't even hunt anymore, and they still come up to deer camp, and you're like, hey, aren't you going? Nope, I just want to hear the stories, and the camaraderie is really what I think is hunting's all about, is the camaraderie. And
absolutely,
like you said, and it's just being out there and seeing. It's just cool to see the deer moving in their natural habitat. I mean, obviously you're there, and sometimes they see you, and it's not natural anymore. But being out there in the natural habitat is definitely the coolest thing.
But at the end of the day, we didn't get this one, and it was chalked up as a lesson learned. As always, keep your eyes peeled. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble,
and TikTok.
What the hell's TikTok?
We have a TikTok channel.
We got a TikTok channel. Anyway, like and subscribe. We'll see you guys